My partner and I moved our family to Hamden in 2008. We chose Hamden because it was halfway between our jobs, it had a diverse population, and relatively good schools. We thought Hamden would be a good place to raise our children, so we bought a house and settled in. But after living in Hamden just a little while, I realized that yes, Black and brown people lived in Hamden, but Hamden was run like a whites-only club. This is a story about regular people running for office and using the power of the ballot to build a beloved community.
Frederick Douglass went to Ireland to escape the risk of being captured and sent back to slavery and was treated as a hero. But when he came back, he said, I wish that the Irish in America would treat me the way the Irish did. Somehow, crossing the Atlantic, the Irish kind of lost their sense of humanity.
I only have a few memories of my childhood in Virginia before moving to Connecticut. But one thing I remember is being taught to be proud of being Black. We had to get full on our mother's pride before going out into a community that really didn't think too highly of Black folks. My siblings and I were taught that white folks were not our friends.
I was born in the 40s, and we grew up in a time when, although people thought Ohio was racially, economically equal, it really wasn't. And people had that impression because slaves came up to Ohio, and that was a place of safety. Although there weren't any signs that said colored here or there, you knew your place.
In South Carolina, my family worked in the cotton and tobacco fields. My initial experience in school in South Carolina was in a segregated system. And when I came to New Jersey, it was segregated there too. My mom and 3 or 4 of her female friends had been arrested for protesting the segregation of the school system. She wasn't going to settle for being a second-class citizen.
At one time, Hamden went out looking for people of color to teach at the high school. When I came in 75, we had Beverly O'Connor, a person of color, teaching in the English department. Barbara Chapman was in the history department. Richard Jacobs was the chair of the science department. But then Dr. Comer came in. He came in and did a workshop for the teachers, and he talked about the browning of America. And all of a sudden, it's like everything just started to change. It's almost like people were frightened. And teachers retired, they moved, they did what? And then when they were replaced, they were replaced. I don't know when it happened, but I turned around, looked around, and I just saw a speck of pepper and a lot of salt. I was the only person of color in the classroom for years.
They had the spring musical concert. My son was in the 4th grade. He was all excited. He was in the barbershop quartet, so, made him a little handlebar mustache. He had a little jacket on, bow tie. I said, well, what are you singing? He said, oh, we're singing Moon River and something. I said, oh, okay. So we get there in the auditorium, and my Black neighbors were sitting next to us, so he handed me the program. He said, did you see this? The barbershop quartet was singing Mammy. My husband said, well, what are we gonna do? He said, we're gonna walk out. I said, well, we can't walk out and leave our child on the stage, so we let him go, and he's just singing his little heart out. My Mammy, my... He didn't know any better. He had a good time. He was singing his heart out. Well, I just wrote a nice letter to the music director at the school and to the Board of Education. You put Mammy with Moon River? Okay, that didn't make any sense to me.
A feeling for rhythm can begin with such simple activities as swaying, hopping, and running. Children interpret the music and respond with their entire bodies. children learn to judge distances, move with speed, catch and throw. They learn to observe the rules of the game.
I didn't really like Westwoods because we were in a predominantly white school. The kids weren't as open-minded to Black people and Black people's culture, like their hair or how they may look, and then they make fun of it because it's different. But I could feel like I wasn't myself because I was trying to fit in with these people who didn't look anything like me, who didn't act like me, who couldn't really relate to me.
There is an attitude in Hamden that came to the fore when the town started to talk about redistricting the schools. It hit me more than any other time that people were very racist and didn't want children of color in their school district or didn't want their kids going to school districts where there are children of color. You talk to people and they appear to be nice and friendly and everything, but underneath it all, it's just a whole different reality. And that doesn't include me. It doesn't include my kids.
Currently, I am the lead security officer at Hamden Public Schools. Over the last, I'd say, 7-8 years, we were experiencing a lot of social media harassment and racism. And we would speak to those students who posted the racist comments or pictures. A lot of them came from a school where they expressed to us that they haven't seen Black people. They haven't seen a lot of students of color. That's still not an excuse. We learn, math, English, social studies, all that good stuff. But a lot of it is learning how to interact and socialize with others.
I was born and raised in upstate New York in a town called Poughkeepsie. My dad is an immigrant from Pakistan, and my mom is Irish and Ukrainian. And we were one of the few Muslim families in the area. My first grade teacher told my mom that I needed to be in ESL classes. Even though I was born and raised here, there was always this stereotype placed upon me that I'm not from here, because I think deep down, they didn't want me here. I remember when I heard that the Twin Towers went down, I was in school and I sort of almost went inward inside myself in the back of the class out of fear. At our mosque, they told us to put American flags on our homes to prove that we weren't violent. And I remember asking somebody why we think these flags will protect us. This person said that this is just the negotiation that immigrants make when they come to this country. And during that time, and I still feel that way now, I'm never gonna make that negotiation.
Well, our kids did all go to public school, and I have never had a problem with the public school system. Again, we were in Spring Glen, so we got, whether it's, you want to call it the luck or the benefit or the whatever you want to call it. And I might be telling this all wrong, but Carlin will correct me. But from my perspective, everything was fine. Like nothing was wrong. But I'm not an educator. And, I would get up and leave before my kids went to school, and I would come home after they came home. So I really was kind of clueless.
I had concerns about the fact that the PTA had to raise so much money for the school, when I thought that the school district would have provided a lot more. There probably is a disparity in the schools where if you don't have families that can have the time and the money to engage in all of this PTA activity and fundraising and so on, then kids would be missing out.
You can't make an argument, as so many Americans love to make, that young people start off on equal footing if you're not giving them the opportunity to have equity in education. Because basically what you're saying is whatever your parents can afford to give you is all you deserve to have. I'm like, well, that's not fair, right? It shouldn't matter what my parents did. If you're saying that everyone has the opportunity to achieve their dreams, what is it? Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, then I should be able to start at kindergarten right where all the white girls in my state start off, right?
Someone asked me to take over the Black Educators Network. We were asking for equity in terms of hiring. We were asking for fair, treatment. We were asking for, curriculum that spoke to the needs of our children. Things that we thought were essential to being an inclusive environment. We were able to have the discussions. However, we had trouble getting things operationalized because they would put you in a spin and not necessarily address the issues of concern.
Anytime there's an issue overall with taxes, it overshadows this important need for more teachers of color. This issue is just as important as having more folks of color on the DTC. And here we are.
Coming to be the minister at Spring Glen Church, I thought, well, I'll try to live in the Spring Glen community because that's where I'm the minister. And I really saw clearly the invisible walls that divide us. In my first couple years here, one of our members looked up the long version of their deed to their house and found the clause that explicitly forbids the sale of the home to people of color. Just because the explicit legal separation has been lifted doesn't mean that there isn't cultural, reinforcement of that history. And the ways that realtors decide which neighborhoods to show their clientele, which school districts are considered good, which neighborhoods are considered higher property value.